hmm
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Shavili Podcast. I'm Marian, and I just want to say thank you for tuning in today. Whether you're here out of curiosity, growth, or just searching for a spark of purpose, I see you, and you are in the right place. Today's episode is one I've been truly looking forward to. My guest is Andrew Kallman, a mentor, author, coach, and guide to many. He's someone who doesn't just talk about leadership, he lives it. Through decades of experience helping individuals and organizations navigate uncertainty and complexity, Andrew has grounded his work in timeless truths that offer clarity in the chaos. He's the author of Living Leadership. He's the author of Living Leadership and co-author of Flow and Nehemiah Effect. His approach connects wisdom with strategy, aligning vision with action. And that's something we need more than ever in these pivotal times. So if you are a leader, a seeker, or just someone trying to move with more purpose in the fast moving world, this episode is for you. Grab something warm to drink, find a quiet space, or if you're driving, just tune in and let's lean in together. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to Shavidi Podcast, and we're so glad to have you with us today.
Thanks, Marian. It's really great to be here today.
I'm really glad that we got to do this episode because I was really looking forward to it. I know a lot about your experience and the amazing projects you've been working on in the technology sector. And I know that you have been in many situations and organizations leading implementations. And we would like to hear more from you about what it takes to form leadership and what does it entail for someone to be a leader in their domain?
That's a really good question. I think every one of us, as we go through our career, we at some point we're all followers. We have leaders, coaches, mentors that are working with us. And so I observed and I watched and I watched what they did and how they worked with people and how they motivated people and got the teams to really perform well. One of those instances was when my brother Dan was working on a project at Steelcase. And this is a while ago. This is like, oh man, almost 30 years ago. And he was in charge of recovering a failed Salesforce automation implementation. So it's sort of SFA plus CRM, customer relationship management.
Yeah.
And the company at that time had spent probably $5 million on the
Wow.
effort. And back in mid-90s, that was a lot of money, even for a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, Dan got the project and they said, here, fix this.
Yeah.
And so he made a really bold choice, I guess, when he decided to hire my brother Ted and myself to come in and work on the project together with a very large team. And
Yeah.
so that is the origin of everything that's taught in Living Leadership. So we have 18 principles and 3 leadership triangles, one for the individual, one for teams, and one for the products and organizations. Vision is in probably, I'd say, at least 10 of the 18 principles and in all 3 of the triangles. So everywhere you look, it's vision that drives everything.
Yeah.
And so we worked on this project for a couple of years and we fixed it. We actually got it fixed, which was first, that was amazing. We had team members from all over the world. In fact, we had probably close to 20 team members that came in specifically from India. And so we had a lot of people on this team and they're all there in West Michigan. And so it was really fun working with the teams. And to make a very long story short, the finance department had us under a microscope. I mean, they're really watching everything that was going on. And So they measured after the first year, because we went from fix and deploy to support and sustain.
Understood.
And so we had a lot of different team members working on a lot of different things. One of the key ones was supporting sales and the sales organization and the support teams to sales. So Ted trained all the salespeople, and they probably had somewhere in the range of 700 salespeople for
Wow.
that company, because they had so many dealerships all over North America and Europe. So they had a large sales force, and it's a Fortune 500 company. So there are billions in the sales, and they were largest at that time.
Yeah.
And so Ted got the salespeople trained. I got the sales support staff trained and was sort of their power leader or power user, ask Andy if they had a question. And so they ended up getting 70% of the entire sales force to start to use the software. And it was so unheard of at that
Yeah.
time that CIO Magazine did an entire article on it. They were so blown away. They said, this is amazing, because in the year after we launched, so after we repaired and released, in the sustain and support phase, which went on for a couple more years, the finance department of Fortune 500 company is there measuring everything that's happening.
Absolutely.
And in the first year, it was like $29.6 million net that this platform saved the company.
Amazing.
That was like increasing sales hundreds of millions of dollars. And so they were happy. They were very
Of course,
happy.
absolutely. I would
Yeah.
be happy with
And
just 1 million.
so what we did is we did a retrospective. We didn't know what retrospectives were back in the 90s, but we said, you know what? We did something right. Can we duplicate this? And so that was the birth of, it's had many different names, my book, Living Leadership, but it's things like the Unified Vision Framework. It was called that for a number of years. Then we switched over to the Flow Framework for a number of years. So when I talk about Unified Vision or Flow, it's all the same thing. And so now we talk about Living Leadership, because we realized that all 18 principles, we have to live and breathe every one of those in order to succeed. And so anyone that's working anywhere, whether they're a part of a team, leading the product development, leading programs, portfolios, or the whole organization, all of these principles are in play.
Absolutely.
So it gets really interesting. And so we started duplicating it, and we kept getting remarkable results. And so we started going, ooh, this is interesting. Let's see where this goes. So we've kept track of pretty much every assignment that has been done by myself, Ted, when he was still living. And we have about 200 coaches worldwide and trainers that use Living Leadership in everything that they do. And so we started tracking. And when the results kept coming in really positive, we're like going, oh, this is good. So it was because of that initial spark from my brother Dan, and that idea in his head of, I should hire my brothers to help me with this, which in most cases, most people would say, don't work with family.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
And
I've seen many people who say family business, no, I'd stay away. Yeah.
but in this case, it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I can really imagine the depth of this experience and the dimensions of it, and I want to dig deeper into that. So, first of all, I want to ask you, Andrew, do you think anyone in any position could be a leader? Or do they have to be a CEO, a CIO, a president, a politician to be a
No,
leader?
everybody can be a leader. It just takes practice and understanding that I can lead the things over which I don't like using the word control, but over which I have the power to influence.
Exactly. I like the word influence actually, because mostly sometimes people think or associate leadership with control.
Very often.
Yeah, and I personally think that leadership is not about control at all, but rather about containing and influencing. What do you think about this, Andrew?
Yeah, very much so. I was probably 15 years after working on that particular assignment at Steelcase. I ended up working at Nature Publishing Group in New York City and spending some of my time, a good chunk of my time, in London, UK, working with the main office there for Nature Publishing Group. It's now part of Springer, I think, so it's called Nature Springer or something like that. But I was presented with a very interesting transformation. And so I was working with the CEO and my two bosses. I had two bosses, so this was a real matrix. I had two bosses, the CIO or CTO,
Yeah.
and the chief operating officer. They were my two main key stakeholders, but I also had responsibility to the CEO and the rest of the board. And we were going to transform the organization from, well, it wouldn't even be fair to call it like traditional or waterfall. It was just chaos, the way
Yeah,
that they did
understood.
projects. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, we're going to transfer from all this chaos over to a more disciplined, agile approach.
Yeah.
And so it was really fun because what I was doing is building up the scrum masters, the product owners, the team members. Everybody got trained. And so that's when I realized it's train, coach, and mentor, train, coach, and mentor. And you don't have to get everybody to make a lot of change in order for the results to be exponential.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing because when I came in, they had 48, or they could deliver 48 projects a year. And those were on this average mid-sized projects with 3, 4, 5 people per project, that type of thing. Not huge. Some of them are really big, some of them very small. But they were just medium-sized projects, and they could do 48 a year. Problem is that their backlog was over 260 projects. So it's going to take 4.5 years to, at any kind of increase, it would take 4.5 years to clear out the backlog.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that, I'm going, this is going to be interesting. So I realized I had to help leaders emerge from the teams who could become product owners, who could become scrum masters. I had a whole team of project managers that I decided that, or I didn't decide, I chatted with them and I asked them, what do you want to do? What's your preference? Are you more interested in working with people and facilitating, or are you more interested in the product development part? And I let them choose and just say, you guys sort it out and figure out what do you want to do. And so many of them chose to be scrum masters, but the rest of them chose to be product owners. And I found that very interesting. Given the choice, it was nice to watch how they figured it out themselves. And so it was train, coach, and mentor, train, coach, and mentor. Because what I did is I trained everybody.
Yeah.
Literally everybody, from the team all the way to the CEO on board. I told the CEO, I won't do this unless you guys agree to be trained. Now, they only agreed to half a day of training. Okay. And if they had done the 2-day training right up front, we would have gone even faster. But they didn't. They did a half-day training for the executives on board up front, and they thought, oh, yeah, okay, we get this. It took them half a year before they really understood what I was trying to do. And it took another probably half a year before they went, okay, he's not totally crazy. He actually knows what he's talking about. And it's like, hey, guys, here, what I did is I created a dashboard for them. Very simple. Here's the projects. Here's how the projects are getting completed. Here's the estimates. And I said, these are estimates. Who knows? But what was interesting is that in the middle of the transformation, we went from 48 projects from the year before I arrived. First year, we delivered 70-something projects. And the next year, we delivered, I don't remember, something like 90-something, closer to 100. And in the third year, they cleared out. I was only there for about 9 months of that year. But in the third year, already when I was leaving, they were on track for having cleared out 124 projects in 1 year.
Amazing.
So in 3 years, they went from 48 to 70 something to just under 100 to 124. They more than doubled their ability to complete projects. And I'm looking at our assignments and things like that, and I'm going, oh, that's really good. So the result of that was, in the 3-year period that I had influence over and could help lead, they cleared out not just the 260 projects, they cleared out over 290 projects. And they did it with 10% less people, because as people, natural attrition, people get new jobs other places. We didn't replace anybody. And with 10% less people, so the team size went from over 260 people down to about 230, they were delivering even more than what they ever thought was possible. And it was totally on the point that each person understood, I lead the area I influence. I lead these things. And so as they figured that out, all of a sudden it just had this exponential effect. I had four support teams, and poor things, they were struggling because for some reason the CTO had told them, we're gonna go to Scrum and everybody's gonna go to Scrum.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them going, why?
What is Scrum?
And so I sat down with the teams and I'm talking to them, because they had already been through Scrum Master training 3 times by the time I got there. And they were just like, oh, we hate this. It doesn't work. Oh, please help us. And I looked at their workflow and I said, guys, you should be doing Kanban. And they all looked and they said, well, we were told we don't get to do Kanban. I said, well, that's what the CTO thought. I said, you guys need to do Kanban. So I set them up with a Kanban flow. And all of a sudden, 3 of the 4 teams just went, whoop, their productivity just almost doubled immediately.
Amazing.
And so one of the teams, it was pretty hopeless.
Understood. I can imagine. So do you think, when the team was given the tool they actually can work with and felt comfortable with, they were more productive rather than what was thought they actually needed?
Yes. Yeah. And giving them the power of choice changed 3 of the 4 teams' attitudes. Just like that. They went, what? Somebody's listening to us?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I said, guys, we have to make what you're doing fit your workflow. And when they realized that, they went, oh, this is good. So their attitudes, it was even just a gentle, subtle shift in their attitude, and suddenly it just blossomed. And so that's why I believe every person is a leader, whether or not they're just a team member or a developer or whatever, and up to team leads, to product owners, to program managers, and all the way up to the portfolio level. Everybody's a leader, but it's everybody has to work together. We have to share the vision. And if we don't share the vision, it can be a real challenge in order to succeed. And the biggest aha moment for me was, you don't have to have everybody with in order to win, in order to succeed, in order to achieve remarkable results. You only have to move each team a little bit up the curve.
Yeah.
And that, just moving them up just a little bit, changes everything.
Yeah, it's not about dislocating or relocating, it's about moving. And it's not just about motion, it's about progress as well. Andrew, leadership is supported by vision, as you just said. And the vision usually constitutes motivation that backs it. And leadership is always associated with motivation as well. Mm-hmm. So, all 3 together are linked to each other and they drive each other. And how is it that we get leaders, and every person in their own domain, in their own capacity, to have the motivation to maintain the leadership mindset?
A really good question, because that means that every leader, if we take it one way, we call it cascading vision, and then linking back up. And as each leader wants to cascade their vision for, hey, this is what we want to be in the future, it becomes a real challenge. It was Dr. Cotter when he was at Harvard that said, hey, we have to communicate our vision for the change 10 times more than we think we need to. And so it suddenly becomes the CEO is going to have his vision, but the CTO has a vision, the COO has this vision, the CMO, everybody, the head of sales, whatnot. Each of those have a vision, but those visions should link back to the overall vision of the company. Then as you go down to the program level and you have all these different programs, then those need to link back up to the visions for the C level. And then when you get down to the teams, the team vision needs to link back to the next level up. So to the program level, if we want to look at it that way, or to the product, however you want to describe it. And I had a really good example of that when I was at ZF in Detroit, 2019. And we were doing agile proof of concepts in a manufacturing heavy engineering environment. I mean, we're talking, this is, automotive safety is life or death. And so we were working with the camera team for ADAS, the automated driving systems. And so we had that. And then we were also working with one of the internal teams that was similar to the Steelcase project from 20 years earlier, where they were implementing a product system in order to do quoting and things like that. And so it was really fun working with the teams. And on the camera team, we had a really good facilitator there, and he had no domain experience in automotive at all. He was just a fantastic facilitator for teams. And he always seemed to ask the right questions at the right time. And the executives, we didn't know about this beforehand, but the executives had no expectation for this camera team to deliver anything. And so we had this team of people, and we found out later every one of them had a personal improvement plan, which is HR speak for bye-bye. And so they gave us suspect team members.
Yeah, that they're showing out of the door.
Yeah, they're halfway out the door.
Yeah.
We did lose one during that time, but he said, if you had shown up a year earlier, I'd be staying. And it was really cute. Yeah. But anyways, he was one of our team members from China, and he goes, this is the first time I've ever seen Agile work. Because what happened is this team of misfits with PIPs, personal improvement plans, they did something so remarkable that it just blew the executives' minds. They were supposed to do product configurations, because we're doing when you're driving and you've got your camera up here, every car these days has one of those. It's got camera, sonar, LiDAR, all kinds of sensors. And one of the best quotes from one of the engineers, and she was the one that developed all the little sensors down in the bumpers. She goes, don't trust those. Those are off by at least 30 centimeters. And I'm like going, yeah, I can believe that. My brother-in-law, he actually drove into a post in a parking garage with his Mercedes. And I'm like, yeah, I can believe that. But anyways, they're doing the configurations on the product. And they were like, they did 32 configurations in the first 90 days.
Wow.
Now, that might not sound like a lot until you compare it to, we asked the executives, what is your normal expectation for product configurations for a team like this?
Yeah.
Oh, we'd expect 5 or 6. They got 32.
Amazing.
5 to 6 times more than what they thought was possible. And it was just really fun working on that.
I mean, those experiences kind of like shed light on the truth of what we're dealing with in terms of like implementing and driving day-to-day business. So, I mean, a group of misfits who were on personal improvement plans did overachieve. And from what I'm hearing is they were, first of all, I think you told me once that you didn't know that they were on a
No, we found out after we were done.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of them is prejudice or
Or
let's say
precedent.
background that could
Yeah.
drive the interactions and the expectations of the results.
Yeah, we
Because
didn't know.
subconsciously it
Yeah.
can bias, what
Yeah.
the expectations are from the I mean, also what I'm hearing is that having psychological safety and the belief that a person or someone in their capacity can deliver, can actually move mountains, can compound the productivity and
Yeah.
deliver unimaginable results that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, it reminds me of the book Pygmalion.
Yeah,
It's
I
about
love
this
it.
individual, this doctor that helped this woman become
Correct.
a social star.
Yes.
And he did it all by just setting the expectations. So without knowing whether or not the person was.
Yeah.
And so you can actually overcome a lot just by using what we call the Pygmalion effect.
Yes, absolutely. I love the Pygmalion effect. And
Yeah.
it's also similar to Taming the Shrew, I think.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
In British literature.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
indeed.
love this novel, actually.
What was really powerful with that team that overperformed, there were a couple more things with that, because we put the sprint backlog up on the wall.
Yeah.
And so we had one wall with the sprint backlog that they worked on, every day, every week, every sprint.
Yeah.
But at the top, we had the vision. And then right underneath that, we had the sprint goal. So we had the vision for the team and the sprint goal, and we made it big and we made it visible so that every day they were looking at it. And then on another wall, we had, it was a very odd shaped area, but we had a backlog that was a program level backlog that we would walk executives through and other leaders in the company. They could come in and we could show them, here's how everything links to everything else. So when this group is done here, it goes to all these other groups, and we could show the path and the critical path or the value chain, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Understood. Yeah, I've been there.
And then we had another wall that was their learning wall, where we had all the different flip charts and things like that that they had worked on during the initial training that we had with them. And so in that initial training, we had them, and then on another wall, we had the backlog. And so it was basically, we used up 4 of the walls. And so on the backlog wall, it had all of the original backlog. And it was really interesting that when they were looking at the vision and the sprint goal every sprint, they would look at it and we would just check with them, hey, how do you think you did against that? And they're like, we're not getting there. And it took 3 sprints and suddenly distillation occurred. To watch as the product owner and the team sat down and they looked at each other and they said, this backlog behind us on this wall is what we thought we needed to do. It's not what we need to do if we're going to hit this goal and hit this and deliver on this vision. And all of a sudden, they started writing everything that they actually needed to do. And it was from that point forward, so 6 weeks in, out of that first 90 days, all of a sudden they realized that at that point they had that aha moment and they went, we're not going to make it if we keep going this way. They sat down and they rewrote the backlog in half a day.
Amazing. In half a day.
Half a day. They rewrote the entire backlog with what they needed for probably the next 3 or 4 sprints, but they only took out one sprint at a time to get it done. And it was at that point for me, that was really fun to observe, because that was
Absolutely. I
leadership.
would
That was leadership by the team. It was leadership by the scrum master. It was leadership by the product owner to step back and go, this is our goal. We're not going to make it. And when they had that realization, they were like, well, then let's sit down and let's write down what we really need to do. And they did that. And all of a sudden, boom, they started just delivering. And it was really amazing to watch. And it was a really gifted facilitator, scrum master, that helped get them there and help them up their game in leadership. And so it was
amazing.
really fun to watch.
Amazing. So it's also a misconception that the leader needs to provide the answers. And from what I'm hearing, the true leadership is actually facilitating the process to finding the answers. So it's not like it's not about starting the journey with all the answers, with having all the answers, but rather the kind of like the real value and the progress that is made and incremented is in the journey of finding the answers and asking the right questions.
Yes.
And also moving away from misconceptions of this is what we need, or this is what is expected from us to be needing.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's actually think and ask the right questions and have the psychological safety to ask the right questions about what do we really need, and have the courage to write it down and move course.
The psychological safety needs to be created in such a way where you have to help the people further up the food chain deal with levels of ambiguity that they're uncomfortable with. Where when I came into this assignment working with the 2 different teams, I was like, I don't know what we can deliver. Let's see what we got. And so the Swedes have a wonderful saying. It's called ice in the belly. You have to have ice in your belly. And that means just basically stay calm, carry on. If you put it in a British way, you just stay calm, carry on. And that's one of the other aha moments, is when you learn to manage uncomfortable and high levels of ambiguity. That's when, as a leader, you can really unleash the teams, because all of a sudden they were uncomfortable coming in because they're going, we're all dead. We need to update our CVs. We didn't know that, but that was their view coming in, because I couldn't understand why the team was so negative. And so helping them deal with the ambiguity that they didn't know, helping them, when the executives saw what we did with them, they started getting comfortable going, okay, they don't know exactly what they're going to be able to deliver, but it's way more than anything we ever thought was possible. So let's go with it.
That's amazing. I want to tell you, Andrew, that actually, as you are talking through the experiences you've had on those projects and your lifetime treasure of experience, which I'm really so privileged to listen to, I do reflect on my winning moments as well in my journey through the projects I've led and worked on. And it does make sense. I mean, if we're talking about situations like that were 30 years back, and if you look at the market now, and let's say 2 years ago, we were just still talking about agile as a concept that needs to be adopted. What is
After
agile?
20 years. After 20 years of agile being a thing.
I mean, agile has been there for more than 25 to 30 years now. I mean, and people have tried to shape agile into frameworks and process to iterate through rather than just say follow, because we don't want to be waterfalled. So, I mean, it's just mind-boggling, because I see it as a mindset. I see it as a day-to-day activity to wake up and to choose to be a leader, to choose to be a motivated person, to choose to be in what you do and what you see in your life. And I mean, it's a treasure to have such a thing in the ambiguity we live with in our today's age, of course, and in many other things. We're not just talking about the workplace and in our lives. I mean, the having this mindset is an asset, is
Yeah.
a personal asset.
Yeah, and that's what I cover in Living Leadership. I even have, originally I called it the 18 mindsets, but then as I looked at it, I realized, yeah, it's mindsets, but it's also principles. So I switched over to principles. Either way you look at it, if you're dealing with mindset and paradigm shifts and how do we change our thinking, nobody likes to change their mind.
Yeah,
But most people are willing to make a new decision based on new information.
understood. Yeah.
And so I'm not out to change their minds. I'm there to help them make new decisions based on the new information. And when they see the results, then they get excited. And so I love a good skeptic. I love a person who's coming and going,
Absolutely.
I've seen everything. And it's like, okay, if you're an honest skeptic who's willing to listen and make a new decision based on new information, we're going to work great together. And I actually used that in the training at this project in 2019 at ZF, where I had probably one of the most, I didn't know it at the time, but she was considered one of the most powerful people in the division. And she literally was like, this is just a bunch of, whatever. And I looked down the row at her and I said, I love a good skeptic. We're going to work great together. And she looked at me, but it was just enough to change her thinking. Just in that little statement, all of a sudden she realized somebody's listening to me. They understand.
Yeah.
I don't believe them.
And they
Wait,
accept
yeah.
who I am.
And then when we did the vision exercise, she was the one that came up with the vision where everybody went, that's the vision. And everybody in less than one day, she flipped from being an adversary to a all-out supporter and supported both teams for the next year.
Absolutely. I believe that it takes a skeptic to drive a vision. Yeah. And
yeah, because we don't know if it's going to work.
Exactly, because they are the people who keep maintaining the eyes and the focus on the vision and what's driving us. And from this point, I'm going to lean into diversity of the team. How leadership can tailor for diverse team. I mean, in your experience and in this chat, in our chat so far, we have actually mentioned allocated teams and cross-functional teams.
Yeah.
We mentioned global teams and teams that are knowing that something is not going to work, and mindsets, principles. And I'm going to also throw in this mix values, okay?
Well, and that's beautiful because that dovetails right into what we talk about with culture. Because what we teach in Living Leadership, actually, I don't like to use the word transcend, but it actually fits in this case, where we've used all of these 18 principles in the 3 leadership triangles in the United States, in Europe, in Asia. People in the beginning told us, this isn't going to work in Asia. I was in Singapore. I was there for 3 months to fix a project back around 2000. And we got it on track, got it delivered, and everybody was stunned. And they said, well, how did you do that? And I said, well, here are all the principles I used. And it's understanding that the culture consists of vision, mission, purpose.
Yeah.
And then from there, you distill the values and attitudes. And then further down, you get the strategy and then objectives and goals. And so it goes from abstract to concrete. And so by doing that, you're not working against the culture, you're working with the culture. And so I've never had a problem with any teams where individuals I've had team members on the same team from Asia, Europe, and the US at the same time. Everybody works together. When you use the goal and you use the vision, all of a sudden it takes away this individual cultural component, and it creates a team cultural component that isn't focused on each person. It's focused on the team and what we're going to deliver. And that shifts everything.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, also when you were mentioning the Scrum team that sat together and they said, we're not going to achieve this. It's a we. I heard the we from the very beginning. And I think that's what empowered the team. It's not like, you're not going to achieve this. It's a we effort.
We're all in the same boat.
Exactly. And I think, absolutely. I think only leadership can provide such an environment that contains everyone and speaks to everyone's angle. I
was just going to add one more thing, because you never know what one person has in their experience that might be exactly the thing that the team needs to succeed.
Absolutely.
And it can come from the most unexpected sources. And I've seen that so many times that I sort of expect the unexpected to happen in a good way.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's one organ can feel the whole body, and one organ can support the whole body.
Yeah. If your thumb is suffering, the whole body suffers.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, I really want to hone in on the Nehemiah effect.
Mm-hmm.
I really would like to know a bit more about it and hear about it from you.
Yeah. It's good you remind me on that one, because as we were looking at Agile, because I became certified as a Scrum Master around 2006, got my CSP around 2011, or actually I got my Scrum Master 2007. It was the PMP that I got before that. But anyways, I have too many certifications. and what I noticed is that everyone was talking about how new Agile was. And as I looked at it, and I looked at all the different things that Agile contained, I said, this isn't new. This isn't new at all. This is ancient wisdom that we've rediscovered. And Nehemiah was an executive. He was the cupbearer to the king of Babylon. And that was a position of trust. You had to have a lot of trust to be the wine taster for the king.
Absolutely.
And that meant you had to keep track of everything that was happening in the kitchen and everything else. So it was a very, in one way, powerful position, but a trusted position. But anyways, this guy's the cupbearer to the king, and he's like, the king's like, hey, what's wrong with you? You seem down. And he goes, well, the city that I came from is in total ruins. I would like to go back and rebuild the walls. And the king goes, done. And so Ted used to train construction companies. I have a coach, a trainer in Sweden. He actually works with one of the largest Swedish construction companies called Skanska. They've actually used many of the principles that we teach in Nehemiah Effect when they're building these really huge apartment complexes. They're almost like cities. And so Nehemiah, we would ask the engineers, Ted would ask the engineers, hey guys, how long would it take if you were going to build a wall around a city 7 kilometers long, 10 meters high, or about 10 meters high, 10 meters thick, going around the whole city? How long would it take you? And the engineers love it. They start, they take out their calculators and start figuring out, hey, how long is this going to take to be able to get this done? We would get estimates anywhere from 2 years to 10 years, depending on, they would ask, how many workers, how many camels, how many donkeys, do they have to carry the bricks by hand? All these, they would ask all the right questions. And then Ted would just look at him and he'd go, would you believe 52? All of a sudden, all these construction guys go, wait a second. They did what in 52 days with, it was like, 50,000 volunteers, a few thousand camels and donkeys. Because we always have a lot of camels and donkeys on every project.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious about it is they carried the bricks in one hand and had to have a sword in the other hand. because they were under constant threat by the enemies as they were rebuilding the wall. And it just reminded me, man, that's just like projects today. You got to carry the bricks with one hand. You better have a good sword in the other hand to deal with the politics. And so that book goes back and it looks at, here's all these agile principles. And it basically, Nehemiah used them all.
Yeah.
But instead of having a daily stand-up, he had a daily sit-down where there was lots of food and wine. So he might have something there. but otherwise it was one for one. And so we were saying, hey guys, you keep talking about agile's new, it's over 2,600 years old. Everyone just forgot what we had learned the first time around, and now we've come full circle all the way back, and it's like, oh yeah.
Absolutely, Anna. And this was more than 2,000 years old.
Yeah, 2,600 years ago.
2,600.
And they were already doing, it's recorded for us. The copies are there. People can read it for themselves. And I think Nehemiah Effect may or may not still be in publication because it's from 2014. And so it's a little bit older now. So Flow is still out there and Living Leadership is still out there. But everything in Living Leadership basically pulls together everything from Nehemiah Effect and our book Flow. And we have the new case studies in the latest book. So true to form, we track everything that we're doing and we're trying to help people understand what we're doing.
I do appreciate this, Andrew, because we actually need this more than we think. We think like leadership is an outdated or it's a saturated topic that people have been speaking about for years, but it does come down to the decision you take at the moment, or in any situation. So it took a king to listen and ask. It took a servant or a person in his kingdom to be able to speak up and say what they are concerned about. It took the leadership of both of them to actually take action towards it.
Yeah.
And if we look later on in the story, it took also the team, the people who built the wall, to have the agility to be building and holding a sword at the same time, to be building and safeguarding, not just themselves, but the whole city.
And everybody,
I love this, Andrew. And one last thing from me, I really want to relate this to Shivili and how it focuses on mental health and well-being. And I believe that leadership can actually harness and ensure workplace well-being and mental health in the workplace is looked after, is constantly honed on, is constantly fostered and looked after. So I'm just gonna hand over to you for an insight in, I really would like to hear this from you as we finish this amazing episode. We haven't had enough time with you, but I am conscious of your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great question because one of the 3 leadership triangles actually is exactly what we use for this, because we look at it from the person's individual viewpoint, and some people might call that the person's spirit. But then there's the mental, physical, and social components to that. And so it's, in order to be a leader, you have to be acutely aware of how is the person doing mentally? How is the person doing physically? How is the person doing socially? Because it all comes back to the core of the person. And so if any one of those is out of balance, it bubbles to the surface and it manifests in the team. And so that's one of the underpinning foundations to the 18 principles, is that we're always focused on the individual. And actually the first 6 of the 18 principles is just about the person. So we're looking at how are they doing? And so we have another model, the 4R model, which is right truth, right values and attitudes, right actions, right results. Every ism, every religion, every philosophy uses the first three. I added the fourth one after observing that you can do the first three right and still get the wrong results. People are people. So,
Exactly. I mean, people are people. So
yeah.
again, I'm just gonna focus on this because this is really important. So does it mean that all three need to be balanced or
hmm
not be out of sync? And if so, I mean, we're all presented with challenges in our lives.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I can
it's
I can
so
give a really quick good example
yeah.
of this in practice, because we had done a profile for a salesperson at a company I worked for way back in the beginning. And according to his profile, he should have been the best salesperson ever. And in the middle of, let's say, the first year, halfway through the first year, his performance and everything just
It's the halo.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the CEO who knew this framework, he looked at it and he went, So he talked to the individual and he asked them, what's going on, but he really couldn't get out of him yet what was going on. So he sent him back to the company that did the personality profile. And the company looked at the two profiles and said, what happened? What is the traumatic thing that has happened to this person that has literally flipped their personality? Go back, you need to dig deeper. So the CEO went back and was chatting with the salesperson, and he found out that he was going through a really hard divorce where they were fighting over the dog, over the, everything. And it was because of that his personality profile flipped. And so that stuck with me my entire career, that what from the outside you'd look at and go, okay, that can't be that traumatic. But from the inside, it is so traumatic. It really jumbles the person up. And so that's why we have the mental, the physical, and the social. He was his imbalance happened in the mental and the social area because his life was being torn apart. And so it's a very quick way to work with your team members. It doesn't have to be deep, it doesn't have to be extensive, but just check, hey, what books are you reading? Or hey, what are the things that you're doing to keep yourself mentally fresh? Have you been to training courses? Have you, whatever? Or physically, hey, have you been to the gym? I started going back to the gym here about a year and a half ago, and it's finally producing some results. I was like going, this is going to be interesting. But I'm starting to go, you don't see anything at first, but
Right.
eventually you go, it's having an impact. And so a lot of times when we're working with the team members, it's just little gentle tweaks and nudges in order to create that psychological safety, in order to create a physical environment that's safe, in order to create a social environment that's safe, that can really make all the difference for that person in the team, so that when they hit that calm state and all of a sudden they're able to step into a sustainable state of individual flow, that helps them achieve a lot for themselves and for the team and for the organization. And so this is why that was a great question, because it's like, yes, this is how we approach that, and this is how we would do that. And that's why I talk about all 18 principles, all three leadership triangles. I try to take it from the view that I live and I breathe these every day when I'm working with the teams. And when I do that, it's sort of demonstrating and modeling the behavior and the mindsets and the principles, so that they go, what was that you just did? Why did you do that? You mean if I do this small tweak, I can get this? And it's like, And so it's that type of thing. You have to be patient. You have to have a long view and just hang in there.
Amazing. I love that. Absolutely. It's very easy for any one of those to be knocked out of balance, and it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
common, and it's very rare to find all three in the perfect shape. It's about the balance, it's about the little actions, it's about the chats, it's about
Yeah.
asking the right questions and
Hmm.
having the mindset to always be compassionate and driven towards
Yes.
yourself, the role you deliver, and your society
Yeah.
and everyone around you. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being with us today.
Thanks, Marion. It was great to be here. It was great catching up again.